Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is rebuild this old Mustang. So I kind of fitted the cage, the main bar into the cage, and it's good, and then I blew it all apart. That's the rear fender. So this will be way easier to work on like this. So my plan of attack is, since I'm going to widen these wheel tubs, first thing I'm going to do is put the inner tubs in. So that'll give a little bit of structure between here and here. So that'll help my whole endeavor. And then I got to clear that inner with the down bars that comes from the main hoop. So I have to have that in there to put these bars, and they're going to land, you know, somewhere in this area. I have dimensions in CAD to know exact, but nothing's exact here because I'm going to change my plans. And then I can hang the outer wheel well, like that one there. I'm going to roll those lips up and then weld that to the panel. And then it doesn't really matter how those fit because I'm going to have to put a 3-inch or 4-inch piece of sheet metal in between those two, the inner and the outer. So it'll compensate whatever I need to compensate. And I'll use my little slip roll up there. A little cheesy 30-inch. Okay, so I got this thing kind of mocked up in place. And I put a straight edge on here and realized that this from here to over here is all straight. So that'll like weld right into the frame rail that I put on. And then the areas beyond that, it's going to follow this contour. I will leave a little bit of metal there so I can fold that down, and then I'll have something to weld that to. So, and this doesn't have to be perfection. I can always trim it a little here and there. Okay, so a bunch of junk laying on the floor for some reason. So that's, I don't know if you can see it very good, not much light over here, but that's approximately where it's going to go. One thing that I do need to fix is this has this stupid little dent in it, which is to clear the spare tire. So I'm going to get rid of that. Figure it formed that way, I can unform it that way. So I think I'll just get my piece of redwood stump and start bonking on that. Make that pretty. And then yeah, I need to figure out, I might just try and make this go straight, like put this little notch right here, because this is going to weld directly to the frame, from there to there. All this will weld directly to the frame, but then it starts curving, so I can't anymore. So that's why I left this flange. So this will have to get bent down, kind of like this, over here. So I left an extra 3/4 of an inch on there. So I'll kind of hammer and dolly work that around the corner. I have to put some pie cuts in it or something. And the same thing with here, right? This frame rail needs to go away, so I'll have to get that out of there. And then it's double thick in a couple of places where it attaches to the frame rail, but most of this is just single thickness. So, and then at some point, this is part of the floor pan. Yeah. So this seam here, this is the floor pan. This is the trunk pan. And this is the frame rail. So it's actually triple thick right here. This has all got to get gone. So I might as well just get rid of that right now. Alright, so my camera ran out of memory, but got a little bit done here. Just use the same old tactics, drilling those rivets out, or spot welds out, chiseling them off. I think there's another one right in there. So, one of my first videos, I mentioned that somebody did some repairs on this. There they are. Probably see it better now. Not so good. Yeah, bad. However, everything in here looks reasonably okay, which is good. This all needs to come out. But now we can see what we're working on. A lot of this is just tar in here, so. Okay, so I did my one day at work yesterday, and now I'm back at this mess. And been pondering what I'm going to do on this whole kind of area here. So this is the old frame rail, it's still intact. And then this is where this little Sharpie line is where the new inner fender well goes. And I was trying to science out how I'm going to attach this all together. And so after kind of looking at it a while, I think what I'm going to do is cut along this line, not only through the trunk pan, this part, but through this as well, and then make a piece of sheet metal that is, you know, the height of the frame rail, 3 inches, and it comes from here all the way over to here, and then butt welded on the top, and then this will weld to this guy and to this guy. So it'll kind of tie this and this and this and this all together and give me a place to put the new fender well. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I was going to fold it down like I did up here, but since this is an inside corner, when you fold it down, you have to have pie cuts just right. And then what do you do with this mess here? So I think it's easier, and it's going to end up being cleaner to tie this to this and this all in one piece, and I could get in here and TIG weld that real nice, and then replace this guy here, and I can get it all tidied up to the existing shape of that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. As I've said multiple times before, I change my mind a lot, which is okay. Okay, so that didn't turn out too terrible. So now I just need to take a piece of 18 gauge and box that all in. Probably leave a little gusset here just to kind of stiffen this guy up. You see I left a little bit away from this line here, so I can sand that to fit. And I think that this is going to work out pretty good. I wasn't really sure how I was going to do this. Well, ever. So how I was going to, like, was I going to completely remove these frame rails where it attached into the bumper, or kind of tie them in somehow? But I think this is going to be a really nice solution. It's going to look tidy, and it's going to be effective structurally. So I got this thing sort of mocked up. I just sawed a slot in here. I think when they assemble these things in production, they just jam a pin through here and this mating piece right here, and then that just rests on here, and that's what aligns it. So I just put a slot. I did try this slot up here, see if it fit better, but I think the original place is pretty good. So it's pretty tidy through here. And I got, you know, I can just do some rosette boat welds inside here and here. And I got to build that little piece. And it ends up being about 3¼ inch wider than stock. So this is going to have a 3½ inch spacer. I'll probably just cut this flange off. And same thing with the other side. This flange, I'll just chop that off. For now, I'll leave it in there for structure, but then I'll just put a flat piece in there and weld that together all pretty. It's kind of designed for it. It's got this little lip here, so I'll just put the sheet metal on the inside. Same thing here, so it'll kind of fill up that little gap there. So this gap is deeper than the metal I'm going to use, but that's fine. That's what it looks like. Looks pretty good to me. I'll punch some holes in here for some rosette welds. I built a little piece of metal here. Folds over that tab. I'll take that all in before I put this guy. And then, yeah, we'll have an inner fender well. I'm kind of thinking about taking this to the English wheel, and unfortunately the English wheel is still in a cardboard box, so it might be easier to whittle on it in position here, because it's like, you know, solid. Once it's welded in there, it'll be even solider. But I won't be able to get the English wheel in there, so I'll be stuck with either hammer and dolly or planishing hammer. But honestly, it looks pretty darn good to me. A little bit of high build primer on that, and it'll look as good as anything. Alright, so I think I got this thing closer. I got my rear bar in there, made out of lightweight plastic. It's easier to drop on the floor and hold up with duct tape. Masking tape. Anyway, I think that's going to be its final resting position right there. It's kind of in the little cubby of that inner structure panel, so I won't need to clearance that really at all. And I think everything's going to be good. I think this is a couple inches farther back than I have in CAD, so I'm going to go back and make my CAD match. These rear bars need to be at least 30 degrees from vertical. Most sanctioning bodies require that. Just right, you can't just have it like vertical and won't do anything. So, and this is like right in the middle of the frame rail, so that should be good. I could actually put a little notch in that thing if I needed to, but I think I'm in a pretty good spot here where it's sitting in the center of the frame rail and it's going to be happy there. And then on this, I'm going to make an arc to match that guy. And I think I'm going to put the bar inside here a little bit, right? So it's farther away from your head. Like this piece of sheet metal is, yeah, that's structural, but the roll bar will be more structural than that. And then the headliner will just cover it up, right? The headliner pinches onto this guy, and then the seal pinches on this guy, and then all the bows and stuff. So it'll be like completely hidden that there's actually a roll cage in there. I mean, obviously these guys will stick out, but, and then down here it'll stick out a little bit. You'll see it there, but it won't be like some albatross in your way. But if you have never driven a car with a full cage in it, it is amazing difference handling wise. Like the shocks actually work when you, like you can put stiff shocks on an early Mustang and they don't do shit, right? So as you put a cage in it, now it transforms the car into, you can make an adjustment and it does something, right? So spring rates, sway bars, shocks, they all like, now they work, because the only torsional member between the front of the car and the back of the car, which is where you gotta do the adjustments, if it's not stiff, like significantly stiffer than the chassis, or if the chassis isn't significantly stiffer than the spring roll rate and the sway bar roll rate, then it's just going to be ineffective, right? You can make changes and it's going to be a vague answer of whether it did anything or not. Once you put a cage in, night and day difference. So anyway, that's been my experience with putting full cages. Like a roll bar doesn't do shit, export brace doesn't do shit, right? As soon as you like put a real cage in there, then you got something. Now you can work. So anyway, a little bit of progress, I think. I think maybe my vision is becoming more clear to myself and hopefully to you guys as well and gals. Okay, so I'm doing a little bit more hacking and chopping. I got this side trimmed. All the frame rail-y junk is out of there. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And I got the main hoop located. And then I pulled the floor off of here, both sides. That's what it looks like. Do that. So now I have to get some structure going from the main frame rails to where the hoop is. So my plan, which this is the original structure for leaf spring perch, front half of it, which I'm not gonna have leaf springs anymore, so I don't need that. So I think I'm gonna leave the torque box in here. There's this guy here. And I'm gonna take this thing out, because that's not really doing anything. It's like, it's holding up a thing that doesn't hold the thing up, right? So I'm gonna cut that out of there. This whole thing will be gone. And then between here and here, it's a 1, 2, 3 blocks, so 3 inches wide. So I'm gonna put a piece of this tubing, 1/8 inch wall tubing, out all the way into this rail inside yonder. So that'll support the main hoop. Yeah, that will tidy up this area here. All the rest of the stuff is kind of boxed in, but this is kind of leftover remnants. And I didn't take it out earlier because there was nothing. If I would have taken it out, there would be nothing supporting, right? This was all disconnected when this was connected. Now that this is connected to the frame, then I can take this out, right? So I'm kind of building a ship in a bottle, or I don't know what. But anyway, that's all supported in 8 places by rotisserie and jack stands. I think those should be strong enough for what it's holding up. This thing probably only weighs 400 pounds now. Probably less, 300 pounds. Not that much. I think I weighed it when it was a coupe, completely empty, and it was 460 pounds or something like that. It's in one of my earlier videos if you want to look that up. But yeah, going to a full-size car or mid-size car to a compact car seems like it's a big weight savings, but the chassis is actually the light part of the vehicle, right? Like 450 pounds is the weight of the car. Then when you start piling, transmissions and differentials and suspensions and wheels and tires and brakes and engines and transmissions and doors and fenders and all that junk. Then it starts getting heavy. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to cut this whole thing out all the way here, here, both sides, put a rail in there, cut a hole in this guy. So it goes inside here, and then there'll be some structure inside to meet up with this guy. I'll probably slide it in the end here. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But that should give me some nice structure. This is kind of similar to the roll cage scenario on the Sonda, except for it's 2x2 square tubing that goes all the way through to the front and rear subframes, and then it has like outriggers that go out to where the roll cage mounts, because that body was so rusted that essentially the body isn't holding anything up. It's all, the roll cage is doing all the work and the body's just kind of sitting on it because it was so rusty. This one, not much rust, so the body will be adding some structure to it, but anyway, that's pretty much how I did the roll cage on that guy too. It's been racing in lemons for, I don't know, 12, 13 years now. So I got all this mocked up with the roll cage in there. This is a little bit touching here, so I'm gonna have to slit that and bend it out. But all this stuff is pretty much in position where it's gonna go. All these little alignment holes are, I don't know if you can see through there. I can with my eyeballs. Anyway, these holes here are lined up. I got my wheel and tire combo makeshifted in here. So that's gonna sit. Probably should mount that for real and put some air in it, but as you can see, I got quite a lot of space in there. I don't know, there's probably 2.5, 3 inches to the inside. It's hard to see, but yeah, there's clamps holding it on and it's not even hitting those. So anyway, it's looking okay, just a lot of work. One other piece of work that I didn't realize I was going to have to do, so I popped this fender off of here and set it out in the sun, and yeah, it's kind of not sun today, but there's some pretty big wrinkles in here. I guess feather fill may take care of that, but normally there's a trim piece that goes on here, which I'm not planning on using, so this is going to have to be tidied up a bit, I think. But anyway, it's kind of a minor compared to all the rest of the work. Don't worry about that guy. That guy. We're focusing on this for now. Okay, a few minutes later, pieces are gone. I guess I can't put leaf springs back in this now. Bummer. Anyway, that's what it looks like. Kind of opened up a lot of room in there for me. So I can see what's happening now. I can weld this to this now. So that'll be nice. Tie that into that. I can grind all this, knock those spot welds out of there, grind it off. I don't know. We'll get it out of there somehow. I'm also going to remove this, because that's just going to make the fuel tank sit 1 inch higher than it needs to be. So I'll chop that flange off there. That's just to make it easy to build, and then MIG weld that whole seam up. So that'll be easy, but I'll do that. I'm going to leave this structure in here for now until I get this in, and then I'll worry about that. And I'm going to do one side at a time. I'll get this whole side finished, and then I'll go do the exact same thing to that side, right? So I don't make this thing, I mean, it's got some pretty stiff frame rails in here now, but I don't want to turn it into a Fleximobile. Plus I also have this measurement So this is where it was before I started cutting anything roof-wise off. So I know where this thing lives. And if it moves more than a 32nd of an inch, I'll be able to put it back to where it was. Look at all that weight savings. So I got this kind of cleaned up. Those tabs removed that used to go to the shock absorber, or the leaf spring. I got a crude hole stuck in here so far. So there's also a, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a dent right here. While I have this access to it, I'm gonna kind of bonkerize that back into submission. So I won't have to put stud gun on it and all that good stuff. So I'll fix that while I have access to it. And then I'll get this 3x3 piece. It's gonna have to be cut on a, I don't know, 5-degree angle or something. And I'll have to trim this hole to the right size. Yeah, this is looking pretty tidy, I have to say. I mean, I usually say that because they're mostly my ideas that I implement, so of course I'm going to like them. But this gives me an opportunity to weld all this up in here. I mean, obviously I was going to weld that as well, but that'll tie this torque box into the frame real nice, better than it ever was, really. And then I left a little bit of a ledge on here, and that'll be where the floor sits on. I got that all cut out. It just cut me off a small section of that 3x3 square, so I could kind of fit that in there, so I didn't have to wrestle with a big piece. So that looks pretty good. Now I just have to trace this outer contour here to the inside of it, and then I'll put a piece of plate on the end of it with that same shape. So that'll be boxed in. There won't be any leaves or anything to coagulate in there. And I got some cardboard 8-inch design template made up. Goes in there. Something like that. So this part of it here lines up with this, and then that's this curve down here, and then it's right into that like a butter. Okay, so I got this all kind of trimmed up. So this is the pattern. And you can see this thing is kind of curved. So when I weld this, I'll weld it on this end here, and then I'll tap it and it'll go around the corner. And I just keep tapping it till it lines up with that guy, all the way to here, and then I'll make a little triangular piece to fill that in, and then same thing on the other side. And then this, I'll put a couple of rosette welds into the sill plate, and that'll be all tied together better than the factory did it. Thanks for watching. If you like this content and want more, subscribe, like, and share.